Well, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful and so heartwarming for me to see so many of you here to support the fundraising efforts for this wonderful group, Australia for UNHCR. We are here to celebrate today. We're here to celebrate Refugee Day. I have on occasion been known to say a negative thing or two about Australia's refugee policy. But today, I'm really here to talk about why we are so grateful in Australia to have refugees with us. And we have already recognised the many distinguished guests here, but I would, of course, like to recognise the refugees who are joining us, Australian refugees, that we're so proud to have with us. I think you all are aware that we're now in a context of a global phenomenon of displaced persons and refugees, 60 million people estimated to be in the world needing assistance and protection. It's an extraordinary phenomenon and one that is going to take a great deal of effort regionally and globally and within our own country to resolve if ever we can. But the upside of this is that Australia has been an enormously generous country over the years, and many will know that we've received over 800,000 refugees since Federation, and my hope is that the generosity and openness of heart will remain in Australia as we move into a new government and a new environment. Well, Australia does understand better than many what contributions can be made by refugees to Australian society, and that is the emphasis I'd like to make today. And just to tell you some stories that you may be familiar with, but they give you some indication of the richness and benefits that refugees have brought to Australia. And let's begin in 1947. A teenage boy arrived in Sydney with his older brother. Their Russian Jewish parents had sought refuge in China during the Second World War. As communism began to spread in their adopted home, they made the decision to send their two boys to Australia. That boy is now Australia's richest man, Harry Triggs, founder of the Meriton Property Development Group. Some years later, in 1982, a 4-year-old girl was resettled in Melbourne with her family, having fled by boat to Malaysia in the wake of the Vietnam War. Her family didn't have much money, but she was a diligent student starting university at just 16. That little girl was Tan Le, the 1998 Young Australian of the Year and founder of the innovative, and innovative's of course the great word at the moment, neuroengineering company Emotive. And then we come to Sam's story. In 1997, a young boy watched a group of Tamil asylum seekers play a strange ball game at the Villawood Immigration Detention Centre. He and his family had been detained there for 8 months after fleeing Saddam Hussein's regime in Iraq. The ball game, he would learn, was called cricket. He went on to establish the Sydney Junior Winter Cricket Association, which has become one of the largest associations in New South Wales, and is now the senior manager of community engagement at Cricket Australia, and his name is Sam Al-Maliki. Well, each of these, Harry, Tan and Sam, are just 3 of those hundreds of thousands of refugees and humanitarian entrants who've found good homes in Australia. They arrived decades apart, but their stories highlight the features common to many refugees: resilience, ingenuity, and determination to succeed against the odds. Refugee Week is an important opportunity to celebrate the contributions of people like Harry, Tan, and Sam that they've made to Australia. But it's also time to remember the millions of refugees who've not yet found a place to rebuild their lives. Debates on refugee policy tend to focus on the financial cost of assisting refugees, among other factors, but perhaps we should be focusing not on the cost of assisting refugees, but on the cost of wasting all that human potential. How many Harrys are struggling to subsist in countries where they've no legal status, no right to work, and no access to education? How many Tans are embarking on a perilous boat journey in a last-ditch attempt to find a decent level of protection and tragically losing their lives? How many Sams are languishing in detention centres across the world, wasting months or years in what could otherwise be spent in learning, working and contributing to their new their new communities. Perhaps a solution to the problem is to change the conversation, to stop debating about what we can afford to solve the problem, but start debating about whether we can afford not to. And I'd suggest that the refugee gain is Australia's gain. Thank you very much.